All right, let's get into it. We've talked about the chaos, the drama, the shocks, but now we're going to finish the job. We're going to recap the rest of round 16, and then we're going to have a real conversation about this U.S. men's national team, not the sugar-coated version, not the PR version, not the we're building something version, the real version, the ugly version, the version nobody inside the Federation ever wants to say out loud. Because what happened against Belgium? Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. And it's not just about one match. It's about the entire structure of American soccer. But let's finish the round of 16 first. All right, we had Portugal against Spain. This was a chess match and a really entertaining one. Spain with the ball, Portugal with the moments. You know, Spain controlled possession, Portugal controlled the danger. And in knockout soccer, danger just seems to win every time. And Portugal took their chance, but, Spain didn't. And it's the same story we've seen from Spain for, a decade? Beautiful soccer, stylistic finishing, beautiful finishing, and clean sheets. I mean, they haven't given up a goal. I mean, nobody has scored on them. You can't pass your way into the quarterfinals. You have to score. And Spain scores, and they don't allow the other team to score. So far, I understand everybody has Argentina and France in particular as favorites. Why shouldn't Spain be in that conversation? I'm not seeing why they shouldn't be in the same conversation. They actually have probably a deeper team than both of those teams have, in my opinion, when you watch these games. So Spain is moving on. Next, we had one of the greatest comebacks of all time in the history of the World Cup. Argentina against Egypt. Argentina did what Argentina does. They survived. Egypt played with a lot of heart, with a lot of structure, and with a lot of discipline. But Argentina had the difference makers, man, and, Messi's one of them. Now, a lot of people complained about the VAR goal overturned by Egypt, and I generally agree. That was a play that shouldn't have been overturned. Probably the entire dynamic of the game changes at that point if it isn't overturned. However, it's very important to remember that Messi did miss a penalty kick in the first half of this game. So, with all that being said, and Argentina being up 3-0, Egypt being up 3-0, Argentina found a way, and they stormed back, and they win the game 4-3, and they move on in what was one of the more exciting games of soccer that we've seen in the World Cup in recent years. And next we had Switzerland against Colombia. This was a dead heat going into penalties. Switzerland, they're the quiet assassins of international football. They don't wow you. They don't even scare you, but they beat you. And Colombia is a good team. They had flashes. They had energy, but Switzerland just had control of the game. They suffocated the game all the way to the end of regulation and extra time, slowed it down, and won it on their terms. That's experience. That's maturity. And now, the match that I've really just been waiting days to talk about, and I really have, let everything sink in, have gained a lot of perspective from watching, and just kind of, listening to what people have had to say over the last few days about this team. But I've just come to the conclusion now. This match exposed everything. The United States men's national team was an embarrassment against Belgium. Let's be brutally honest. They didn't just lose the game. They folded. They shrunk in the moment. They looked outclassed, outcoached, outworked, outprepared. This wasn't, a tough loss, and this wasn't, no, this is just a learning moment for this team. No. This was a reality check. A slap to the face. A reminder that the rest of the world is playing a different sport than we are. The ugly truths of this game. The midfield was an absolute disgrace. I mean, Belgium walked through the midfield like it wasn't even there on a consistent basis. No resistance, no structure, no bite, no control. You cannot win knockout matches if your midfield is a turnstile. Simple as that. On top of that, the defense was absolutely atrocious. Belgium didn't even have to be creative. They just had to be patient, because this U.S. team's back line was consistently out of position, constantly reacting instead of anticipating, and really just looked like a team that's never played together on the same field before, never defended together on the same field before. Just atrocious, man. I mean, it can't happen in the biggest moments of the tournament, and that's what we got. And then on top of all that, their attack, absolutely zero identity on the attack. Even with Balogun available after the red card suspension, okay, which was big news. And even with that, it seemed like we had no plan. It didn't seem like there were any patterns, any chemistry. It was just all hopeful balls, all went to, either Pulisic or Balogun, isolated runs, praying for a mistake. Well, Belgium really didn't even have to sweat against that, did they? I mean, it just looked so easy for them. They just coasted the entire game. On top of that, the coaching, in my opinion, looked miles behind. This is the part nobody wants to say, because I get it. I like Pochettino. I think a lot of people like Pochettino. But we were outcoached, plain and simple. Completely outcoached. Belgium adjusted, adapted, and manipulated the game. And we looked rigid, predictable, and completely overwhelmed, and looked like a bunch of children out there. So we made none, and they made all the necessary ones. And on top of all that, just seemed like the moment was too big. This is the harshest truth. We looked scared. They looked super, super tight. They looked like a team that wanted the moment just to be over and just to go home. That's what they looked like out there playing this game. Belgium, on the other hand, looked like a team that had just simply been there before and knew what to expect and knew how to handle it, because they have. And that matters. So, this wasn't just a loss. It was a diagnosis. It showed us exactly where we stand. And it showed us exactly why we keep hitting the same ceiling. Let's talk about the underlying issue, right? youth soccer and the academies in this country, the real problem. Okay? Here's the core issue. The United States does not develop players the same way the rest of the world does. Period. Stop. Pay to play is a cancer. Okay? In most countries, if you're talented, you're simply in the system. You're developed, you're nurtured, and then you mature into a solid player, or sometimes even a great player, sometimes even a world-class player. In the US, you better have a checkbook. You better have a parent who could afford the fees, the travel, the tournaments, being logistically available for all these things. Talent is secondary. Money is primary. This to me is the biggest problem. And this to me is the problem that if it isn't addressed from the core issue of pay to play, our ceiling will never change. Another thing, on top of all that, our academies are way too comfortable. Kids in Europe fight for spots. Kids in South America, they're fighting for survival. Kids here, they get orange slices and Instagram highlight reels and everybody gets a trophy. There's no pressure, no edge, no urgency, and you cannot manufacture competitiveness this way. It has to be lived. Coaching quality, miles behind. The best coaches in Europe and South America work with kids. Did you know that? In the US, the best coaches work with the pros. Youth development is treated like babysitting here in this country. Overseas, it's treated like national infrastructure because that's how much the sport matters to them over there. Tactical education is non-existent here. American players grow up learning how to try hard. European players grow up learning how to manipulate space, tempo, angles, and pressure. And we teach effort here. They teach intelligence. Effort alone doesn't win knockout matches. And then last but not least, because everybody knows it, we have tremendous, phenomenal athletes in this country. We produce athletes. We don't produce soccer players. Speed, strength, size, vertical leap, great. But soccer is a decision-making sport. It's a pattern recognition sport. It's a creativity sport. You can't outrun tactics. You can't outjump experience. And this is why Belgium looked like adults. And it's the same reason why we looked like little kids out there. It's not about heart. I'm sorry to say that. It's not about patriotism. It's not about growing the game. It's about development. And until we fix the foundation here, like I said, the ceiling will never change. So that's the truth. Round of 16 gave us drama, like I said, shocks, plenty of storylines. And the U.S. men's national team gave us a mirror. A mirror we don't like looking into for those of you who care about soccer here. And I know my wife and my father-in-law are people who care about soccer here. So there are people here who care about it, whether you do or not. A mirror that shows the gap between where we are at and where we think we are. Belgium didn't expose us, they confirmed us. And until the youth system changes, until the academies change, until somebody with a lot of money decides, hey, you know what, this is really stupid, the rest of the world does it this way, I'm going to open up shop over here and then I'm going to spread that around to the rest of the country, and this is how we're going to do it now. And hopefully they'll market it, and hopefully they'll attract people. Do you know what these leagues are called? The average American knows what T-ball is, knows what, Little League Baseball is, knows what Pee Wee football is. Do you know what these leagues are called? I don't. So until we get that change in our culture, we're going to keep having the same conversation every 4 years, even with 400 plus million people in this country. That's the reality, folks. U.S. soccer in a nutshell. I'll see you next time.